Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
What a show.
Yeah.
I mean, gut-wrenching and heartbreaking and relevant. And Mr. Barry Ackroyd. So, it says here, it's all down here. Politically or kind of cultural significant stories have always been a bit of a starting point for you.
Yeah.
I think my experience of your work. How important is that to you, and how does that start? I mean, obviously stories and directors come to you, but that's these things that you make decisions to do.
No, yeah. It's one and the same, really. You can't. The directors find you because you've got some kind of attitude, I suppose. And which probably got me into documentaries created that attitude, but. Ken Loach kind of shaped it as I moved to work with him, but there was a reason why he chose me to work with him as well. And then, and then from that there's been different tentacles that have gone out in different directions. And Catherine is one of them, which, my feeling just watching the film tonight was that how much of that is Catherine,
right?
But she leaves you feeling that you contributed all this stuff, like the actors and but it's very much Catherine. Yeah, it's
right.
Her film. Yeah.
And what a cast! Amazing set of people.
Yeah, amazing, and a lot of unknown actors who perform brilliantly well. Obviously, and then some that we would know because like Will Poulter and John Boyega.
Half of them are British, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's the odd Australian and Irish.
Yes.
In fact, the three cops, none of them are Americans. They're English, Irish, and Australian. Right. Which I'm reminded is a joke. Could be a joke, but I couldn't do it. Yeah.
So obviously it's a chronological film, a story, and obviously it's true. Or most of it is true. It's all based on on historic events. Is that useful? I mean, I guess it's more for Catherine, but for you, when you're trying to structure the film or the approach to it, is that having the things to hang on. Is that useful to you? And obviously then reference. So Catherine, I understood Catherine had a wall of reference, and then there was obviously a lot of footage. Did you use a lot of that? Yeah,
I mean, the very first discussion that I had with Catherine was to go and meet up with her, and she had a wall full of images of the real characters, some of which you see at the end. Right. Those photographs are on the wall, the cops and the time and the attitude of the play of Detroit and America. So it included, I think, if I'm correct, it included. That sense of I had the sense of that. The Vietnam War was going on, and all those cities were ablaze, and Detroit was one of those places. But this was a very specific story that I'd never heard of. I'm sure Mark Bowl found that story, and watching it again tonight. So I think it's the only second time I've watched this. So it's complex because how do you get a handle on all these different characters, and keep sympathy with them all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Not difficult when they're in the situation, but it's a complex and difficult and probably and almost like an unnatural form. But again, having worked on Hurt Locker, sure. I felt the same feeling on that it was very episodic. Film Hurt Locker. This is also episodic, but much more diverse. Sure. You didn't have four characters to follow, 3 or 4 characters. We had this whole city to follow, and I think it's quite So that was a difficult thing to get into my head.
Yes,
I guess. Yeah.
Well, the dynamic doesn't stop, and you never get, even though it gets sort of stuck into that corridor in the hallway.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't stop, and wanted to talk to you a bit about about the license from the director and how you work that out, and how and if there was any improv, because a show that I did with somebody that we did a lot of improv, and a lot of that is about finding it, and that's what this film feels like to me. It feels like there's a lot of a lot of found things, but with a lot of coverage. I mean, there's like 4 angles on 4 cameras on almost everything.
3 or 4 cameras on nearly everything. Yeah.
Which is amazing. How you manage all of that and stay out of each other's way is impressive.
Yeah.
And does stuff just run and you kind of shoot it almost as live, or is it actually, I'm sure it's actually quite constructed?
It's constructed, but it's allowed to run. Sure. And it's allowed to develop, and I'm never too aware of what the script is actually is saying, because I immerse myself in that process of shooting. Sure. So I don't really want to know that I have to get off this shot and go over there because someone is going to start talking in the next beat. I just listen, and I managed to get really good operators, Chris McGuire and Josh Medak, who were great, in that they picked up that. I'd worked with Josh before, but they picked it up really quickly. And watching the film tonight, I'm usually aware of, that was a shot I did, that was a shot. You kind of still...
Good one. I wish that was mine.
Yeah. But no, I completely lost that, I've got to say that. Or, it was a brilliant... assembly. One of the you can't shoot a film like this, which is very crude in one sense, without the sophistication of a great editor who can bring all that together, and a director who wills you to do the work in that way.
Yes,
that's what I mean about license. If the dialogue is off camera and it's not, it breaks a lot of those traditions or or ideas that we have about why why the camera hasn't got to that point, or would it be better if we shot each individual character? But then
is there wasn't one camera that was doing it that was kind of safely getting all the sync while somebody else was there?
No, never, no. Okay. You just kind of. But it's strange. You're looking out of one eye, I get pretty good at putting cameras in positions where you can complement each other. Simple thing. The simplest scenes that we did were those 2 scenes in the interrogation room in the police cell. Yet we still used.
There's 4 shots.
3 or 4. Even there was no, and it was a real room, so in a real police station actually. But we kind of managed to move the cameras round somehow into. I think we used 3 cameras on that day. So it was a profile each shot, and then there were 2 shots. But they kept moving. And if one moved in, then the other one had to move out a little bit,
So it comes down to instinct, doesn't it? And I think that's you're having to rely on, and you said you'd worked with those operators, or one of those operators before, but you have to rely on their instinct.
Yeah.
And that's really important because they have to be, like you say, it's listening and reacting to stuff, which is great. And so how does Catherine then watch that, or is she relying on you to?
She watches. She has a monitor with which is
on all 3. If you've got
3 or 4 cameras, 3 or 4 cameras. The tendency is to keep shooting it, and like say in the cell, which is typical of everything, is the cameras would not stay in one position continuously. We'd have a little break and we'd move one, like change angles, and then that's why I'm unsure who shot what, because I know I was in that angle, and I was on John Boyega, and I was on the 2 guys as well. I did a profile in one of them, but so did all the other guys.
But then I guess that comes down to performance. It's actually you're getting different takes on different cameras, and that's
and a lot of performances were very similar, but they could grow, or they could develop, or they could
amazing. So the lighting. It looked like you just turned up, of course, and it was all practical lighting, and you just shot it as it was.
Quite a lot. No, you obviously want to build in as much, into the sets.
So they had the annex, the house. That was that a real building? I know you shot in. You didn't shoot in Detroit, did you? You shot in Boston.
We shot in Boston, but like 2 districts of Boston. One was called Lawrence, which has got a big industrial part, so that had that feeling of Detroit's factories. That was exactly where the opening sequence takes place in the
club.
In the Shabina club or whatever it is. So a lot of the streets were very good for Detroit, so we shot things there.
I mean, it looked, set dressing and stuff. You didn't look like you were struggling to look anywhere. Was that? Or was you?
Well, yeah, that's one of the
Just-
tricks.
just
It
there.
is the trick, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, the art department.
Yeah.
Jeremy Hindle, who was great, the designer on it, we did fantastic work. Was struggling at times to find, and you may repeat a small stretch of street that we had, and change some signs around and made it look slightly different, But
But the house was the house was a real building.
Actually, we found in Boston, we found a motel that was of the period.
Right.
Fortunately, it was like just been bought out to be and was going to be refurbished, and we just stopped. And it had all been tarmacked all around it, so they dug a swimming pool. They built the swimming pool there as well.
Cool.
And then we had a split set because there was a building that had to look like the annex. It's a strange. That's another complicated thing. You say you go into the motel, you want to see an American motel, right? And then you suddenly end up in some Victorian house, which is weird, like a spooky house, which turned into a real horror story.
Right.
So connecting that, we just, that the connection was just that breezeway, the little, and we used it in one set and we took it to the other one. It's, the usual thing, really. But every other look, I don't think we had anything on a set at all. Nothing.
Right. Do you? How are you with sets and builds and?
Well, they're useful. They're useful at times, but I like the limitations of buildings and things, and the geography of it, because maybe it does lead you to another place, a little extra set of stairs or a thing, that you might not be able to find if you build a set, no matter how well you build that set, Yeah,
the idiosyncrasies of stuff, and then I think I feel very similar, but it's those, or even with sets, I like them to be kind of closed and not with flyaways.
Yeah, same.
And having fixed ceilings, because you get that claustrophobia and you get that like you say, limitations. I think those are good things sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we were given plenty on this film, and I created some because there's.
Yes.
I should talk a little bit about the technique, because like Catherine loves Super 16 as I do. It's my kind of historically, it's how I learned how to shoot, and that the key to that was those small zooms that you can handhold.
Yes.
And I hope it doesn't feel too zoomy, the film, but the film is full of emotional, what I would call like emotional zooms that lead you to if something gets more intense, the camera gets big. That's why I realised there's a lot of very big close-ups. which I was surprised watching it again, and an energy in through the whole riot period.
Yes.
That then we stop later on. We kind of get to the courtroom
scene. It was a pacing thing.
And it's a strange pace because you usually build up to the crescendo of it.
And you start with.
And when you start with the crescendo, and you end it more peacefully, in a way. So.
Well, it's a good way to start.
Yeah. Well, it's some ways, yeah. But I'll go back just to the technical thing for a moment. Is to say that we wanted to shoot Super 16, but we discovered that within the ARRI Mini, they had just written some software or whatever they do, and made the beauty of it. So you could put 16mm lenses on there, like the Amira camera, and although it's not 2K exactly when you shoot like that, it helped the texture of the film and gave it another kind of layer, and allowed us to carry these lightweight 10, 12 to 1 zooms, which are I can't underestimate how much importance that has to this kind of filmmaking, for me anyway. So.
Well, you've got to it's about changing lenses, I guess, if you've got lots of cameras and they're working in that kind of capturing documentary sort of way, then it's to be able to change quickly is also important. But then using those, like you say, as emotional zooms and being able to push in and
yeah. I mean, I think that my camera I think all the cameras basically was set up mostly with with Canon zooms on them every day, and you maybe at some point towards the end, perhaps I think there was some things, little scenes. The very dark scene right at the end where Algie is just in his room on his own. You know, we went to some prime lenses perhaps from that, I think. But the rest of it, when the energy was there, the energy is also inside the lens. It's in your kind of left hand, the way you just make that little adjustment here, you know. And, you know, all those big stop pulls that you see in, you know, that, they come from a brilliantly bright exterior into an interior and vice versa. And you know, and as you pan the camera, your thumb just kind of drags the stop along with you, you know.
See, that's going back to my TV days of having having a focus and a zoom and a iris
exactly, It's kind of jazz. That's how I see it.
So kit-wise, you used minis, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, how was that? They're light, aren't they?
Light. Well, they're light enough, you know, balanced and good. And I don't know what I'd love to know what people think from cinematographers here in the room. What the quality of that image is like. I mean, sometimes it has a nice a sharpness in a sense, a kind of clarity, and you know, the skin tones were really quite beautiful in parts of that, I thought. And then at other times it lets you, it's soft and it's trying to struggle as well when you're really down and low. And we added some grain to the film as well, just to give it a.
Did you shoot it all at kind of 800, or did you play with that at all?
I don't tend to. I wouldn't normally mess with that. I believe it's just an illusion, anyways. So you know, I get
whole conversation.
Yeah. I don't get technical to it, but it's at 800 ASA. You know, in a way, I think I protect digital film. I believe that I protect it a little bit more than I would film celluloid, because I'm so familiar with a history, a lifetime of working with that. And some of the best images I've ever made, they were like on the edge, because the film, you know, say in a documentary, you find yourself in a place where you might say, I've got to get some light in here, but there is no way of doing that. You can't break the subject up. You can't say, stop, I'm going to have to do something, or change a lens to something faster, you know. And then you shoot it, and then you find out afterwards that that was a really beautiful image. Not beautiful necessarily in all the technical but it was a beautiful image. So I'm prepared to do that on this kind of filmmaking. But because you have a DIT and and you can just sneak a look around the corner, have a look at it, you know, and you can then say, oh, maybe I'll go back and I'll, you know, and just put a little bit more into that light, or, you know, take a gel out or add a gel or do whatever. So I think you protect digital a little bit more because it's right there with you. You know? Sure,
you've got the option to, I suppose.
Yeah.
How, again, it's going back to, like you say, about that documentary feel of kind of finding it. So as it is, just kind of finding the lighting and the situations. Does that mean that it's all kind of rigged and set and you can move quite quickly? I mean, do you like to move quickly? Does Catherine like to move quickly?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to move quickly, don't they? Well, not always, but I'm sure the films I've ever worked on, it's all about like, hey, we have to get this done now. You know?
Sure.
But I also, you know, I've said this many times, but, you know, prepared the whole scene as much as I can. You know. Especially if you're going to have 3 or 4 cameras and you have corridors, and so you're wandering around as you're lighting, going like, you know, but there's a corridor here and with a little doorway or something. Well, that's a camera position, so I've got to look at the scene from that position, and then I'm going to be in the other room, down the other end there with another camera. So we're going to look at both those positions, you know, and one will hand over to the other, and then the third one will pick it up, and you know,
right,
and.
Oh, so would you run things that would just then hand over to cameras?
Yeah. I mean, for a certain length of time, you know, and repeat the action and shoot it differently again.
Yeah.
You know, don't get stuck in shooting the same shot.
Yeah.
You know, presume you've got that one.
Well, that's it. Is that the operating doesn't? I think that it doesn't feel like the. And this is not a bad thing. It doesn't feel like the operators quite know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because then it feels like, there's an old thing about you almost not knowing the script because then you're discovering it for us.
Yeah.
And so you're doing all the seeing.
Yeah.
But to fake that is really tough.
Faking it is hard.
To make it look like you're seeing all of this stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
And even to the dynamic of the operating, I think is astonishing and very difficult to fake. And I can't do it because I'm always trying to get it right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you're trying to frame things right. And
Yeah.
Is that obviously, again, going back to your operators, is that something that you talk to them about, or just that they had to find for themselves, or is it?
Maybe they're just as simple as I am, in a nice way, though, I think. Yeah, in a great way. They're very, because if you're faking it, and occasionally you have to say, you go like, shit, you make that look too easy, don't do that, and they stop doing it, And I guess if you did something that was too perfect, the editor would just ditch it. He would ditch it anyway. Yeah. Catherine would go like, yeah, they can't have that. It's kind of, it's leading the story, and you're not meant to be leading the story.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's lots of beautiful. There's lots of little motify moments like this, the tears and the sweats and the hand clasping and the, and even the patterns on the wallpaper that look like blood and those all felt like things that were very specific. Were they things that you had to get?
No, because once you're in that situation, that sweat was for real because it was it was summer in Massachusetts. It was hot, and we're into big scenes and hard work and people running and chasing around. Did anyone recognise there's a shot that when they're trying to escape, when the two guys are trying to get out, and he goes, shit, the soldier's coming to the door, and they turn.
Yes.
And then he runs down the stairs and round the corner, and up, and that was the one take, handheld.
Yeah.
I'm not saying who did it, but it was at my age, but you have this amazing adrenaline,
yes,
and I planned, rigged the lighting, knowing what we had to do, but having never rehearsed it or anything like that, so just put the lighting in where you think it was going to be. I didn't know what the actors didn't know what they would do. They would. Right. And the camera.
Well, that's the stuff that's most alive, right?
And when you get that, then the editor stops editing. Actually, that's the interesting thing. Because there's a lot of shots I wish you keep that one running. You've just got to that point and you cut it again. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just from a cinematographer, that there's more of that story in that shot or something. Yeah. Occasionally, when you get a shot like that, there was no option, and I think it has an extra element of drama because it isn't edited at that point.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right, done operators. You've done that.
And focus pullers.
Focus pullers.
Operators Night, there was a toast to the focus pullers, wasn't there? And quite rightly.
Yes.
I mean, that's the other thing. You can't make this film without people who are in a zen place with the focus.
They've got to be.
Because the camera isn't going to go and hit that spot.
Yes.
And you can see that the lens, the zooms will actually. It's a trigger point for focus pulling as well. Right. That's how I use it. So you may have a two shot that's getting a little vague, and may not even be sure that I'm thinking it's a bit out of focus, but without having with the remote focuses now offset in the background, you're going like, well, if I alter the frame, the weight of the frame.
Yes, of course. And then it draws.
A good focus puller also sees that, and if that hasn't worked, then a little push encourages them. And then the fear that you might just go all the way in because they don't know that it might be a big close-up. Yeah. So then they find the focus, and then you can maybe then ease off and do something else. So there's little. There's a lot going on within every frame. I think there's a lot of thought, and to get the performance and the camera and the operating, lighting and focus all to be simpatico is just a fantastic feeling. And when you see it and it works, then I think, it's a, just massive respect to everybody who was on that camera team all the way through. So
absolutely, that instinct and that the feel. You've got to be in the it's a zone thing, isn't it? Like you say, it's the zen. Yeah. That courtroom. Yeah. Is pretty electric stuff. Did you do a different setup for every defendant? because there was every eye line and every
Yeah, we
every
did
lighting from both
try.
sides.
We did try, but again, you're in a real building, a real courtroom. I think I think it's the actual courtroom that
Oh, really?
that it happened in. Yeah, because we travelled quite a long way to get to. I think it is. Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, but then you're on a kind of quite a high level, like
Yeah.
the first floor of a big institutional building, so it's quite hard to get to. There's real daylight coming in, and and 3 or 4 days of shooting that's 4 days or something like that. So and we also wanted it to have slightly different feel, so trying to make
Give it some
the
time.
direction of the light as much as anything, and also you find after the first day you think, shit, we could have done this, so let's do that tomorrow.
Right.
We could have shut down a few more of those windows, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, get a little bit more contrast into it. But I think
it gives that sense of that it's lasted for a while anyway. You get some time.
Yeah, and you get the change of time, which is important. Yeah, because actually there were two full trials. One was like abandoned,
Right.
and they went back. So that's what I understand from the historical records. But so it's condensed into one. Yeah.
Right. And just lastly, before I ask anyone for a question, is the colorist. You'd worked with Stephen
Yeah.
Nakamura. Have you
Yeah.
worked with him before on?
Yeah, he had done. I'd worked with him twice before, but I've never been out to LA and worked with him.
Oh, right.
Because he did Hurt Locker, which I wasn't around to do
Right.
the colouring on, and one other film which I can't remember right now. But he, so it was our third film.
Right.
But he has a brilliant
Yes.
aesthetic and a lot of respect. But on this one, I went out to LA for 2 weeks kind
Right.
of thing, where he'd done most of the work anyway. So I was like hanging around a bit, but no, adding those little touches, adding up those little things that you.
Sure.
And actually, I'm going to have to watch it again because I saw one massive mistake in the film. But I'm going to. I'm
You have to tell us after.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to tell anyone. But I'll consider it like a Persian carpet with a little fault in the middle.
Well,
of it.
everyone's
yeah, right.
got to have some of those.
Yeah,
Thank you.
with
So-
an intentional fault. I'll
Yes,
call it.
absolutely. Anyone got a question?
Okay, thanks.
Young man in the back.
Yeah.
This is for the recording. I'll speak up then. Schedule. How many days did you shoot over, and how many days did you spend in that corridor?
Oh, that good one. Yeah, I think we were like 45, 50 days or something shooting. We went back and did a little bit of reshooting back in Detroit. The snow, for instance, the scene with the snow, and a little bit more of the choir sequence at the end, etc. So some 50 something. I was going to say 50 something days, and then inside. That was a long sequence. Yeah, it was.
It's most
Yeah.
of the show, right?
It seemed to take sort of almost 50% of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were there. It did break away from the corridor, and we went to different rooms, and we shot that more sequentially. So we would break out of it a little bit, and again, I had to light the corridor, the hallway, and then the rooms were pretty much sketched in, and we left that area where Carl Cooper was killed.
Yes.
So that was pretty much left alone. But it was every day you're tweaking something. The one thing, in the importance of doing the rec is, and you found the right building, it looks right. It was a vicarage, actually, and they were very pleased for us to go in there and do some repair work. But they had this bright yellow wallpaper, so but they didn't want to touch it because they'd only just put the bright yellow wallpaper on with huge flags. And like Jeremy, the designer, or someone on his team, found this amazing stuff that is wallpaper, but it kind of
Sticks.
Yeah, it sticks to the wall rather than you having to paste it on. Yeah, brilliant. And then they chose that amazing texture, and to give it a period feel, but like you said, also felt like the fingers have been clawing in it, and and all that kind of thing. So you've got that far, but then there was no particular lighting in there at all. There was like
In the corridor.
in the hallway. As you would expect, you'd have
There was a picture light. Wasn't
Well,
there?
that was the picture light. So that's what I introduced.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, the picture light. It was like, maybe we should just have something on the wall.
So
like,
anything.
Yeah, and and you don't see it very much, but there's enough of it to suggest where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And from that, a strip of tungsten light, about 18 inch, maybe a foot long, used little strips of LED that we ran out, or kind of. I know it was actually 2 bulbs put together. Like symmetrical put together. So. At times we were spraying them, sometimes we were bringing them up on a dimmer, adding little things.
And then there's little floor things as well.
And then I've my famous tubos, things.
Right.
So these putting Kinoflows inside a drain pipe, a down pipe.
Right.
2 foot high or 4 foot, and at times we'd have maybe 8 of those around there,
really?
because cameras are looking back at the cops wandering around the hallway.
Yeah.
And then you had the guys up against the wall, and you've got to try and get something
So
into their faces.
We always shoot. Often, were you shooting, especially in that corridor,
Yeah,
corridor? Were you shooting against each
yeah,
other?
yeah.
Christ.
Yeah. But there was, this little. You could be behind a wall or
Yeah,
inside a doorway or something like that. Yeah.
Your gutter drain pipes, are they got a slit, or is it just whatever comes out the end?
No. It's the side. It's the length of the tube that is cut open.
Right. Okay.
As
gotcha.
a little. You'll have to go to the web page. I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of take them around. I take the idea with me around the world.
So then you can either direct or bounce off of things.
Yeah. So paint it white on the inside.
Brilliant.
A tube, and you kind of weigh this much of it.
Yeah.
Paint it white on the inside. Put the tube inside, and now we're using LEDs, and then you've got a beautiful soft light, but controlled, and even because it's on a black tube, it can often just be in shot or just out of shot, or if you catch it, you won't see it.
Sure.
But the light is emitting somewhere, and it's very good for lying on the floor and twisting and stuff.
Sure.
So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah. Because you can throw those in as well, can't you? You can move them.
You can do it, and even as you finish a take, you can just say, "I know that was too much," and just spin it a little,
dim
just
it down.
in your fingers. Well, you dim it by spinning it,
Right.
So that's
Excellent. Anyone else? Ula.
So we've done the annex setup, which was my question, but I would like to know how you're controlling the wide shots, the shots of riots, and making sure. So talk us through
the night at night time.
The night time, where you're putting the camera, making sure that the cameras are not seeing each other, and talk me through, please, how you work with finding the angles, because what I found extremely difficult, if with crowd scenes, I mean, it's just chaos.
Yeah.
Then you introduce chaos as a storytelling.
Yeah.
And then, to control it and making sure that you're looking in the right directions.
Yeah.
And you're within the vicinity, that you understand what each camera unit is doing. Took us through
What
that.
did you feel of that first sequence? I find it a little chaotic, a little too chaotic. But there is a story in there as well. The first, when they're pulling them out, we've got to go through the front door. And the storyline there is that will attract attention, and that was it's not the purpose. It didn't cause the riot. This event, it's just an example of what causes a riot.
I mean, obviously there's an accent which sometimes I find quite difficult as a foreigner. But I've managed to know most of British accents, but the American is actually sometimes it's quite hard because I never lived there.
Yeah.
But the ones I got really fascinated by, and I thought you've done a really great job, is the big ones with the fire. When you look through, fight slivers, looking through the windows, and it's just there's so much going on that it's very hard to know what each unit does, and how do you actually make sure that this is where to place camera. I assume that you use at least 4 cameras for those sequences.
4, 3 always, but 4 sometimes. But I mean, it's often as simple as going back to back, or just saying, this we're doing the whole action. You don't break up. It's down to directors who say, who may have just gone, we only need 20 extras today because we're going to do all the scenes with one character, and they'll be the background, and you'll move them around a little bit. The opposite attitude is to have the big scene going on, and then putting the cameras within that scene, you know. And when you get into the groove of it all, like, I'm not even talking to the other camera guys about where to put this stuff. I'm going to go like, I'll be here. It's handheld. You know, we're not on dollies or tracks. So it's handheld. We know somebody's going to rush out of a doorway, and sometimes I don't even know what's going to happen. You know, but you know, I'll take this position and I'll do that, and the other guys will go, okay. So I'll cover all that stuff coming down the street towards us this way, and I'll be here, and then I'm trusting that between those three angles at that one moment we captured a piece of the story there, at least, you know. And then you find out what's wrong, what you missed out, and you'll do it again. Yeah, it's really hard to say exactly. I'm good at, like, if you have a corridor, or room, or space, saying I can put one camera here, one here, you know, and they're not crossing the line. And if one does cross the line, there's a reason why you've done that, and all, you know, and that kind of stuff. You know. It's really hard to explain,
but I think
what's also difficult is how you block that scene and how the director blocks it together with first AD to make sure that the people are having the same dynamic actions, you know,
over and again,
and keep using the same momentum. How many times do you go through?
Yeah.
You know, when do people lose their energy? I mean, there's so many things going on.
Well, that's that one thing there. One of the energy, it was always up because everybody believed in the story. That was really interesting. We had amazing background actors in there, you know. So I don't think we didn't tire them out either. The people were putting a lot of effort in, but they were always doing. There was scenes with like people running through streets, you know, and women with heels on and stuff like that, and they're running over rubble and wreckage and stuff, you know, and they just, you know, over and over again they would do it for us, you know, because people believed the story was going to be good, you know, so that helps. And I don't mean, I wish I could give you more how you do it, you know. You start with like three people around a table. If you look at the kind of the sequence in the cell, you know, that's three cameras. That wouldn't be natural, but you can do that. And you realise that shot. One thing you can't do is you can't put on wide lenses and shoot everything, because you're gonna. And I'm surprised you said the wide shots, because I was worried. There were no wide shots in the film, hardly.
Yeah,
long lens.
Shots.
Yeah, that encompass a lot of action in one, but a long lens, and that helps a lot, because then you're hiding, you know, in the parallax of the lens, you're hiding each other as well, you know. And of course you do catch each other, or you do something like that.
Cool.
I felt like it was very consistent, I guess, with like the documentary style of the filming and how the pace of the film kind of dipped and then rose again, and then I feel like the pace of the cameras as well kind of followed the energy as the film progressed. I felt as though the only moment that kind of stuck out was when there was the detail shot of the ticket.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there was any like discussions on how that was, I guess, blocked out, or how it was scripted.
Yeah. So the pace, I think,
is the only thing that kind of like where I had to stop to pay attention, whereas everything else just followed, kind of thing.
But but there's very little information in the ticket scene, you know, except, you know, the story of the young girl going to the post guy and bringing the message, you know, and his kind of reaction to the message, and you don't, you know, it's basically a ticket on the bus that they were given, because the courtroom was, you know, like 50, 70 miles away. And they wouldn't have had the money to get there. That's a story in itself. But
I see. Okay.
So you see a little bit of the ticket, and you just see a little piece of an official document. And I think we only shot it once or twice. Catherine's prepared all the time to throw away storyline like that. You know, I feel like I should have got the focus in there a little more. You know, or held the shot, or
it was
just
came in.
But you know, that's about not that's making the audience work, you know, and I think sometimes it can be a little too difficult, and sometimes it can be too easy. But somewhere in between is good. But it was a very simple thing to shoot. You know, it's just the logic of it was he opened the envelope and the camera. The obvious position was to be just over his shoulder to try and read it. You know.
Sure.
Yeah. Again, with a prime lens on that, because you get more, you know. But sometimes you might add a little bit more depth of field, but not in that kind of circumstance, really. It was more, you know, like... I mean, I hope he didn't... I mean, it didn't spoil the film, I hope, and he didn't change your... Yeah, but those are just things... If you think, again, you can... You know, there's a whole different kind of filmmaking, obviously, which would have had that laid out on, you know, he'd have opened it, you'd have seen it again twice probably on, you know, as he put it down on the bed or on a desk or something, and maybe with a little track in on it, a little, you know, or a little move in on it, and make sure, boom, and a hold, and then a cut, you know. But that's perfectly great filmmaking. It just wasn't in our vocabulary, so we, you know. Sure. Our way was to look at it. What do I see? I caught just enough information, and then the story unfolds over the next 2 or 3 minutes of the film. You know, so
fantastic. One more. There we go. Thanks, Audra. One more. Done. Young man here.
I thought there was a lot of you in the film, so it was very interesting to hear you say that there's a lot of Catherine you see in the film. So I thought, could you elaborate on that a little bit more? What's Catherine in the film? And my second question would be, can you speak a bit about the pre-production of it, and what have you discussed with her, and did you come up with a certain set of rules on how to cover the film?
The pre-production side, I'll go backwards. That was Hurt Locker, the film he did before. You know, we'd set up a vocabulary then that was going to be we were going to base this on, but obviously different films, different slightly different attitudes. She has it's wonderful if you can. Very lucky to work with someone like Catherine, you know, who gives you this kind of hands over a lot of the responsibility of the visual responsibility for the film, basically. You know, she handed that to Jeremy Hindle to do the production design. But like all directors, they get what they want, and that's where Catherine's influence is. I can see that it's me doing it, and it has a signature. I hope all my films can have a signature of some kind, but there's a signature that's a Paul Greengrass kind of signature, and there's a signature that's Ken Loach, and a signature that's Catherine, and there's a lot of Catherine in that, a lot of really important emotional. Her sensibility is different to mine, you know, for all kinds of reasons. We have different cultures and different sex and different, you know, things we've done in our lives. So she has a different emotional approach to it, and I feel a lot of her in watching it. At the same time, she would say to me, when someone said, well, so where do we put the cameras? She goes like, Barry does that. And we'll go, and to go and talk to an actor, or, you know. There's that confidence in each other's ability to bring it together. But of course, you know, I stand up for cinematography massively, but we are the servants of the film, and that usually means through the voice of the director. And I think it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing that it has a lot of Catherine shining through that, because it's definitely her film, and you know, wish it enormous, you know, success in the next few months, but we'll see. You know, and planning is once you've established a method, it all seems to fall into place. I mean, this sounds really kind of airy-fairy, but you know, I don't go into it with over planning, and I know enough of what I need to know, and you know, and you put together a team. I sometimes say it's like a cricket team, that you got, you know, there may be a batsman who could, you know, a wicket keeper who can bat it quite well, you know, but they have different skills. You know, a bowler who can get you some runs at the end of the innings, and some opening batsman, but you're going to have to change that around at any one point, and get the best out of everybody on the set. You know, that's kind of the role of a cinematographer, I think.
Yeah, good crew is like a heist movie. You've got to have somebody that's good at one and one at blowing stuff
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
and
yeah.
one at...
And the driver standing by to get you out of there. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a good paper. Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. Just join me in thanking and congratulating Barry on an amazing film. Barry Ackroyd.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good. Thank you.